Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Citadel Wars. Citadel Wars is a first-person tower defense-y medieval fantasy gamey thingy. That's the technical term, I'm told. In fact, let me just check here. Yep, that's the technical term, and you can't dispute it. This is an early beta of it, which means that it is missing a ton of features. Let me point this out. This is a very, very basic version of the game, which gives you a vague idea of what it's about, and that really is about it. It is lacking an awful lot, but we're going to have a quick look at it, just to introduce it to the concept of the game, and obviously to raise awareness for it, because it seems pretty okay, and also we'll be tracking this game as we go through its development. Hopefully once it comes out, it should be pretty damn solid. So it's by a company called Firewhirl. It's a 6-man indie development team. And let's just kick it off, shall we? This is what's available. There's 2 levels available plus a tutorial. As I say, there's very little in the game at the moment, but I can show you the core mechanics and we can talk about the possibilities for future development on it. Okay, go from the first level right here. So you've got normal, expert, endless, and then you've got game speed toggles as well. So there we go. Now, what you can do here is you can fight with a bow, and needless to say, you are required to do just that. And also, you can spawn units from your so-called tumblestone right here, as you can see. So, I'm going to queue up 5 dwarf warriors right there. There's only 2 units available in this beta right now. You also have dwarf warriors positioned either side of here, and if the game hasn't completely locked up... Oh, there we go. Then we can get started. Okay, so we've got some spawns right here. There appears to be some kind of troll, and we've also got these flying things. Now, you can use normal arrows or magic arrows. Magic arrows have an area of effect attack, but they do consume mana. Now, mana is also used to spawn units, so that kind of matters. So we're going to try and reposition these right here. Here's something I don't like, just screw this one up. So you click and you select it there, and these are not actually moving right now. If I recall correctly, you're supposed to click shift to select, and then right-click to move. Yes, there we go. Okay, cool. Now, currently this game has no method of spawning units and also allowing you to select multiple units at once, and that's probably the key thing with it at the moment. That's something that does need to be sorted out. Now, they have reported on the forums that they do intend to do just that, so that's pretty good. Trying to sort of position them just to keep everything going right now. This is going to get a bit messy if we don't spawn some more units, so I think we can maybe get some crossbowmen out. Now, the last time I tried the crossbowmen, they didn't actually seem to work, so here's hoping they do now. And yes, my tumblestone, as they call it, is taking hideous damage. If you take too much damage to your tumblestone, that's it, you end the game, so that's something you definitely want to avoid, and hell, I might end up losing right now by the looks of it. So it looks like the crossbowmen are working now, which is good, because I don't think they were earlier. I was certainly having a few problems with it. Get that dwarf over there immediately. This is not looking so good, is it? There we go. I'm dead already. Yeah, I keep losing this game over and over again, and it does seem to be fairly tricky. Admittedly, I think it's mostly due to a lack of unit variety currently available. It makes it a tad difficult. So we'll grab 5 dwarf warriors to start us with. Admittedly, I think actually 5 dwarf warriors seems kind of dumb. I'm thinking we need some crossbowmen as well, since they do have this habit of spawning a bunch of flying units. Plus, I don't think we really want to engage directly with those big stompy troll thingies. I can clear that out right there. So the game does use Havoc physics engine, which seems to work fairly well as far as I can tell. Doesn't seem to be anything too wrong with that. Aside from that, it uses a custom developed engine, I believe, for this, for the actual graphics. And the graphics are kind of neat. I like the style of it. It's pretty good. It reminds me a little bit of Warcraft 3 in a good way. It's not got a massive amount of fidelity to it, but it does have a certain charm, so I'm okay with that. It also would appear that the spawns are a bit randomized, which is kind of weird. It's spawning different monsters this time, as opposed to what it was spawning last time. I suppose I'm going to be thankful about that, because the first monsters it spawned the last time were a bunch of frickin' trolls, and I was evidently not able to deal with them. Now, I'm also noticing that some of my dwarf warriors right there are very heavily injured. There doesn't seem to be a way to heal them right now. I can only assume that healers will come in later versions of the game. So let's try and get these deployed right there and keep them the hell off there. I don't know why he's just standing around doing nothing. They don't seem to engage unless you get really close. Place troll. Well, I don't think we've got a troll coming yet, so let's queue up a few more units. Okay, looks like we're actually managed to stay alive this time, which is good. The shooting mechanics could kind of use a little bit of work, I think, simply because it's a lot of clicking, and it's actually not all that fun. I mean, firing a magic arrow, for instance, awesome. You know, it feels good, but it's like click, 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 click. I think something needs to be done about that. I'm not entirely sure what yet, but perhaps the control method needs to be revised. I think it would be nice maybe if your role as an archer was that of kind of a sniper, in that you do really good damage, but you have very slow refire rate, as opposed to just spamming like this over and over and over again. I think maybe that's something they could look into, because maybe that would be more interesting. Right now, it's just, it's a bit spammy, and I'm not a huge fan of it. A little more crossbowmen coming out. We are at least holding the line for the time being. Are those crossbowmen doing anything useful? Yes, they are. Great. Probably try and pick that off right there. There we go. Yeah, so having the crossbowmen, kind of important by the looks of it. They are helping an awful lot. So we should be holding the line for the moment. I think this game's got a lot of potential in terms of, say, multiplayer. They are saying that they do want multiplayer, although they want to get a full single-player experience going first. You'll notice an experience bar at the bottom of the screen. Now, that's not actually earning me anything at the moment, but I have to assume that's to unlock different units. And obviously things like spells, I think, is what's really going to make this game solid. Once you've got the ability to do a lot of things yourself, as opposed to just shooting and shooting and shooting, which is not a particularly interesting thing to do. It's alright, especially using the magic arrow. That's fairly enjoyable, but I'd just like to see a little bit more to it. Obviously, as I said before, this is a very early beta, so there's an awful lot that they need to do in order to make this a reasonable title. Now, it's also not to say that they are the only game that's doing something like this either. Orcs Must Die looks fairly similar to this, although I think that's mostly based on traps and third-person combat, but it's fairly similar. There's also Sanctum, which is a sci-fi first-person tower defense. So this game's going to have to do a little bit to distinguish itself. It's certainly promising. The engine seems to be pretty solid. It seems like it can support a large amount of enemies without any slowdown. It runs fine. It's got good physics implementation. I have to wonder if they can do anything with that. I'm thinking the idea of setting up traps that are physics-based would be kind of neat. For instance, think about it. What about, say, if I could set up a trap here, like a log swing, that I could shoot the rope out with my arrow and then trigger it at the right time? That would be a cool use for the arrow. If we could use the bow as sort of a utility item, as opposed to just, oh, I shoot goblin, trollolol. That's a possibility. Lots of traps, lots of conniving strategy would be good. And the strategy of it right now seems to be dump a bunch of units in front of the tumblestone to stop the goblins from getting in, and that's kind of it. And that's really all you can do, because of the limited unit variety currently available in the beta. And also some of the pathfinding on these units seems to be very, very bad indeed. But as I said, it is a very early beta product, and I would fully expect some things sorted out in that regard. There are occasional freezes as well. Aside from that, though, it does look like it's got a lot of potential. I'm not really convinced of the whole idea of, oh, we want a really good single-player experience. I mean, what are you going to do to make this a good single-player game? Multiplayer sort of makes sense. Co-op makes sense, particularly, since if you've got maybe a lot of things to manage, that would be kind of nice. Right now, you don't have a huge amount of things to manage, and if all of the items and, say, the spells and the research and stuff is going to be done through this, then it does seem a little simplistic. I think maybe they could do a bit more than that, allow you to construct more buildings. It does certainly have a certain charm about it, though, and I think it has a lot of potential. Definitely worth keeping an eye on. As I said before, it's by a studio called Firewhirl, and I'll put a link in the description below this video if you want to check it out. You can pre-purchase the beta, but as I said before, you're not going to get a huge amount of enjoyment out of the beta in its current state. There is a demo, but as far as I can tell, the demo is pretty much what you're seeing right here, with maybe a few options for, say, Endless turned off. But I don't think you're going to want to play this Endless right now. And for instance, I don't really have any real reason to continue to play this level. There are only, as far as I can tell, 3 monster types currently available in the beta, so that's limiting it quite a bit. I'm also kind of annoyed that I can't make a good wall either. I mean, these goblins seem to be very easily making their way through, and I'm fairly sure I deployed a pretty solid wall off that should prevent any goblins from getting through. The thing is, that's not actually happening. You see, they're just streaming past. It would be nice if dwarves could actually stand there and physically block the goblins from getting in. Otherwise, it just kind of seems pointless. There's too much of them streaming past my wall of dwarves and then having them run back to the tumblestone to do damage and stuff like that. So that seems like something they could definitely work on. Ah, there you go. And down it goes once again. But there you go. That is a quick look at the current state of Citadel Wars. It does have a lot of potential. Do keep an eye on it. And obviously, once it gets more advanced, I'll try and bring you some more videos of it. Seems fairly entertaining, honestly. Comes to you from Firewind. Go check out their website, have a look-see, and then you will find out what it's all about. As you can see, there's the list of things currently available. Only 3 enemy types. For some inexplicable reason, my bow is called the Woodchuck. I have to assume there are more items. If we have things like loot drops, if we have things like traps that can maybe be triggered by the use of actually shooting the arrows and things like that, you know, that would add an element of skill and something that would be kind of cool. Because I think that a game like this would get more out of itself if it were, say, not entirely automatic. I think the thing about tower defenses is once you set up your tower defense, that's it. In a first-person game, that doesn't work. That's boring. What you would like is, say, the ability to set up traps that you can then trigger by using your bow and arrow. Say, a switch. Maybe you could connect multiple traps together by connecting a switch to this, and then another switch to that. Maybe have a line going around like that. I don't really know how they'd implement that without causing you problems when you're setting the traps up. Maybe they give you a preparation period before the things come in, and maybe you can then run out there into the middle of the enemies and try and repair traps or reset traps manually. That's a thought. You know, as I said, there's all sorts of possibilities for a game like this, and also it is open to modding, so I think this game does have a lot of potential. Keep an eye on it, folks. It's called Citadel Wars, and maybe someday they will actually learn to spell. My name is TotalBiscuit, and I will see you next time.